Hi, I'm DV LeBron with the Ellis Talker Show. Today, my very special guest is the Vice President of the Border Patrol Council, Mr. Art Del Cueto. How you doing, sir?
Perfect. How are you, man? Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for coming on. If some of you don't know, Mr. Del Cueto goes to all, he talks to a lot of media and he talks about the things that are going on the border. So you guys hear a lot of things on or online and you see a lot of things on TV. Well, I wanted to get somebody who's actually on the front lines on here that knows about what's going on there so that you guys can be informed. So, Mr. Del Cueto, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and then we'll get into the good stuff?
Yeah, no, for sure. No, so honestly, thank you for having me on. I am the vice president of the National Border Patrol Council, and when I do a lot of these media things, I don't speak on behalf of the agency, obviously, right? Because it's frowned upon. But thankfully, I fall under the umbrella of the union, so I'm able to talk about the real issues that are going on out there. It's different for me, and I like to talk about it. And sometimes I get frustrated with other individuals, and I'll tell you what it is that I was born on the border. So I was born on the border. I was raised on the border. I grew up on the border. I work on the border. So it's a little bit different. And it's just frustrating when you get people that'll come down here. And I see it all the time. People come down, they'll take a picture by the wall, and then they'll go back and they'll say, "No, I saw how bad it is." And they want to talk about how bad it is. That frustrates me, right? Or they'll say, "Well, I know how it is because I got friends that are there." Look, dude, I don't have just friends that are there. I'm there, and I've been here my whole life. So I think that's what frustrates me nowadays. It is a big topic. The border issue is a big topic, and everyone claims that they know something or they want to be relevant. That's why, frankly, I do a lot of this. Is I don't turn down interviews. I think it's important. I think everyone needs to know what really is going on. On a side note, I have my own show, which is available on iHeartRadio and Spotify. It's called The Green Line. I do that once a week, so it's an hour once a week. I do that on my own time, and it's just so I can explain to people what's going on, and at the same time, I have fun with it because I also call out bad management once in a while. People are quick to attack the administration, and they do this and do that. But it's managers within the agency are also some that you have to look at that are at fault for a lot of this. And I'll give you a case in point. Remember when all the issues are going back and forth with the FBI, and everyone's attacking the FBI leadership and attacking the FBI leadership, but they're quick to say this is not a reflection of the FBI agents. Well, here we are with things that are happening on the border, and everyone's attacking the agents, but they're not going to turn. They don't turn around and say, "Hey, it's the leadership; it's not the agents." So it's kind of it flips things around, which is frustrating, and that's why I do this. I think people have the right to know exactly what's happening out there.
Brother, that's why I do my show, to try to inform, because there's nobody that's going to know exactly what's going on than somebody who's got to do it every day, and
Right.
especially somebody that grew up down there. So kind of open it. So one of the things that people bring up nowadays is you had up until about what 2020, you had kind of the regular flow going. That this is I'm just going by what national
Right.
media has said and stuff. You correct me when we're going through, but up to 2020, we kind of had the trickle, the normal kind of what goes back and forth, and then something changed. Something, and I mean, I know that there's a different president. I get it, but there was
Right.
something, a policy or something that you had to do different, and now there's approximately what 10 million people that have come over.
So it's
So
the rhetoric. That's where the problem came. The rhetoric changed. It was before even the presidential change. You had an administration that was wanting to be, the next president, and during their entire campaign, they pushed on that. Immigration was a big issue. They talked about it constantly, and they had the rhetoric of, "Hey, when you come across, we're going to give you an opportunity to stay here and then be able to present your case while being here instead of being sent back or having made to wait or even had to be detained." Because I think that's also a big issue is the detainment. There's individuals that come across the border, they realize that all they have to do is say they're seeking asylum and they're not going to be detained. They're not going to have to prove their case immediately. Under the last administration, you would get detained. That detaining of an individual, that alone was a deterrent because people would say, "Well, I'm going to go across the border, and even if I ask for asylum, they're going to detain me and I'm going to have to prove my case." So that discouraged a lot of the false claims to asylum. Under this administration, they said, "Hey, come one, come all. We're not going to turn you away. We're going to give you the opportunity to present your case, even if it's at a later date, and you'll be able to wait in the United States until your case is heard. And that's where the big change was. And that's why you started seeing individuals from all over the world that are starting to come across. And I do mean all over the world because the agency themselves have reported that they've arrested individuals from over 168 different countries. Now, that's where our whole conversation turns into, we can talk about the cartels. The same reports that the drug cartels operate in over 160 countries themselves. So crime likes crime, right? Criminals will hang out with other criminals. And when you're seeing the criminals that are involved in the human trafficking side, that is when they mingle, I guess you would say, for a lack of a better word, they mingle with the drug cartels that are going all over the world. That's when they're making the deals, and that's where they're saying, hey, there's money in this as well. So they started transporting. During this administration, you're seeing more and more individuals from different countries come across. When it's different countries, you're seeing people from Russia, you're seeing people from the Ukraine, and as you see them that they're at war with each other, I can tell you they're not at war with each other when they cross the southern border and turn themselves in. They're best of friends. As well as we're seeing individuals from the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, from Egypt, Serbia, and different places throughout Africa.
Oh my God, really? So everybody's just coming in. And what's this about? One of the things that come up in the national media or have come up is that the people come in. The picture is, oh, you got children and this and that, and then there's these reports about military age males coming. Can you speak to what demographics you're seeing now compared to like prior 2020? What
Right.
kind of has that changed a lot?
So people need to realize that a lot of it is controlled by the cartels. The cartels are the ones that know where people are going to cross, what they're going to cross. They pretty much control all that. That's why you see a lot of individuals, and just as an example, when you look at what's crossing in areas of Texas like Del Rio or RGV, you see a lot of people from Venezuela. So a lot of Venezuelans are crossing through that area, and you have a lot of national media, national attention there. You're seeing people from Haiti that are crossing there, and you have a lot of media, a lot of national attention there. A lot of it is because I think the state of Texas has done a fantastic job of being open with the American public. Governor Abbott has done a fantastic job of saying, hey, look, this is the reality of what's happening. At the same time, you got other agencies that work in those areas near the border that are very open about the problem. And it's easier and it facilitates the media to be able to go over there and see it. They can stay in cities in a hotel. You can go to Rio Grande Valley. You can go to different areas along the border that actually have hotels, right? And that's facilitated. So they're seeing the people from Haiti. They're seeing the people from Venezuela that are coming across. You got areas in El Paso that you're seeing a lot of people from Cuba that are coming. You're seeing some of the Chinese individuals that are coming through there. And then you keep on moving further west, and it brings you out to areas like Arizona, where the areas in Arizona are way more remote than what you would find in Texas. And the border towns and the border areas that you see in Arizona are sometimes 2 to 3 hours away from a hotel.
Yeah.
So the media sits there and says, I'm not going to go all the way out there when I can get the same picture in areas of Texas and stay at a better hotel 20 minutes away from being able to have lunch, dinner, or breakfast. So those are the differences. But then you got to see, what is it that is crossing now in Arizona? And this is where you're getting huge numbers of people, like I said, from the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, from Egypt, from Serbia, and places like that. Now, since the
did you see it shift, brother? I'm sorry to interrupt, but since Abbott started doing this stuff, did you see it shift to your sector?
You were seeing the numbers still coming across, but not the huge numbers. But we're talking about who is crossing from where, right?
Right.
So still getting the Venezuelans over there in Texas. You guys weren't in Texas, wasn't getting all the Mauritanians and Egyptians, so they started crossing in this area, and the cartels are smart. They know what they're doing. They realize that the media attention isn't so much out here because of its remoteness. At the same time, the number one area for gotaways has been the Tucson sector in Arizona. So, that's the attention that a lot of people are looking at, because it's just harder, more remote areas. a lot of the agents that are working out in Arizona, when they apprehend a large group, they sometimes got to drive 2 hours to a processing facility.
Yeah.
So that's 2 hours away from the line. So that's more gaps, more openings. Therefore, that's why you have more gotaways in this area, because there's more time with when there's not agents out there because they're too busy transporting and having to do processing. So that's where you're seeing the reality of how the cartels control the groups. They know what individuals from what countries to cross in what areas. Even that is strategically done by the drug cartels.
Which cartel owns that right now?
So out here in this area where we're at, it's the Sinaloa cartel. So it's still,
Sinaloa.
fractions of, the sons of Chapo Guzman. But there's also another cartel from Guadalajara that are
Yeah.
constantly going back and forth, and they're fighting over positions of power.
That new generación or whatever.
Yeah, Nueva Generaciones. You've seen a lot of gunfights that have been going on near Sassabee, near Lukeville. The fight back and forth for power. You also have the Cartel de Caborca, which was aligned with the Nueva Generación, and those people are some of the individuals from the old regime of Caro Quintero.
What is the average agent going through on a daily basis? What does their life look like?
So it's frustrating. I'll tell you where the frustration also comes. Obviously people know, and I can't tell you how many there are or where they're placed, but individuals know there's sensors throughout the border. And it gives you signals of where groups are crossing, how many are crossing. And what the biggest frustration is, agents will sit there, they'll apprehend a group that turns themselves in, and while they're sitting there with that group that turns themselves in, waiting for transport, they realize that sensors are going off around them, and there's more groups coming across. Those are the individuals that the agents wish they could go out and chase, because they realize, it's so easy to come into the country right now, ask for asylum, and get released. These others that are going that extra step, not to get, no pun intended, of course, the extra step, not to get detained, not to get apprehended, not to be found out. Those individuals, it's scary to even realize what criminal background they truly have, or what are their real intentions, or what is it they're bringing into the country at that time.
Art, how's it feel like when you're sitting there and you're thinking, I'm doing this thing, and there's a possible terrorist coming through there? When is that frustration boiling along the membership, the Border Patrol Council membership?
It's very frustrating. It's very angering. And as I said, the big frustration as well is that you don't have individuals that are in leadership positions that are saying something about it. And it angers me, because I'll tell you what, I see it all the time. There's individuals that they'll toe the company line. They're happy towing the company line. They're worrying about their job. They're getting bonuses at the end of the year and what have you. And they wait till they retire, and a lot of it you get it from the leadership, right? Because that's what sells. That's the shock value.
Mhm.
People are enamored with titles and what's on their collar. So a lot of times you get individuals that have been in the agency, they've been in leadership positions, and once they retire, they're all over the media, bad mouthing things that are going on. And I think that's also another frustration is, the boots on the ground see that and they think, hey, I remember that guy. I remember when he was a leader in this organization, and he didn't do anything at that time. They wait till they retire. They wait till they get their bonuses. They wait till they find another job that pays well, and now they're cushy and they're good to go. And now they decide to be vocal and talk about it. That's another huge frustration that a lot of agents.
That's weak as hell. That's just weak. I mean,
But
it,
it gravitates to those guys, because they sit there and let's face it. When you say, "Hey, former agent that did 18 years on the line," uh, they look at it of whatever. But when they say, former guy that had this leadership position and now he's speaking out, and people love that. It's weak. It really is weak, and it's angering. And I see it all the time, and I try to call them out, because when I see them out there, I'm like, dang, I remember you. I remember what you did when you were, in a leadership position, or what you didn't do for the
what
agent.
you didn't let me do, what you didn't let me
Right,
do.
right,
You were telling me no, I can't do that. Remember? Well, you guys got already things that are going to hit your morale. Staffing. You got this endless processing that's going on because the border is wide open. You're going through all the. You're not allowed to do your job, and then you got a management that's
right.
not supportive. You got a political structure that's a mess. You got one day you got some congressman telling you you're the greatest thing to slice bread, and then the other day you're getting told that you're just the enemy of the state. How does an agent function with this kind of dysfunction coming from Washington?
It's angering. It's angering, and you're right. And you hit the nail on the head. It's frustrating because you see some politicians that at one point they'll sit there and they'll say, "Hey, you're doing the right thing. I'm on your side," but they're quick to share and click the any story that'll get them more likes. It's just frustrating, man, and I see it all the time. Look, I have my own Instagram page. That's where you found me. I post the truth of a lot of things. I do as much as I can so people can know what's going on. And I have, a good amount of following, but nothing compared to these other guys that, constantly post controversial stuff. And I call them out. I've called them out sometimes privately. I'll send a message and they'll respond and they'll say, "Oh, well, hey, it is what it is. But people are liking it, so I can't take it down." And I'm thinking, wow, the same guys that have been calling out, fake news are now comfortable pushing their own fake news.
Oh man, what's the biggest misconception you think the American public has about what's going on down there?
I think the biggest one is that it's the agent's fault, or that the agents can just say, "Hey, I'm not going to follow this order. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that." No, especially when it comes to the issues with the border fence, and the cutting of the barbed wire.
Yeah,
I've tried to explain it. It's hard to explain because some people dig their heels and they already got in their mind their own agenda of what they want to think about. And I think that's some of the problem. People need to see, hey, when individuals are coming into the United States, first and foremost, that barbed wire, that barrier, it should act as a deterrent. And you would hope that people would change their mind, because a lot of these areas where these people are crossing, they're crossing in areas that are very near a port of entry, but they're not going to the port of entry because the cartels control the group and they tell them, "You're not going to go through the port of entry. You got to go through here." And that's one thing that is frustrating. But people need to understand, once those individuals are on U.S. soil, it is the agent's job to arrest them, and that's what the agents are doing. But everyone will post and to say, "Oh, your oath, oh this, oh that," and I'm thinking, gosh, guys, they are doing their oath. They're arresting these people. They're fingerprinting them. They're going through some kind of vetting. The problem is that the administration is releasing them. That's not the agents. And I think that's the biggest misconception, is they think agents can just say, "Oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to refuse to do it."
yeah.
That's not how it works, man.
No, no, it's not how it works. It will end your career, and it has some very serious consequences. Especially if, like, just imagine the crap storm if you don't do your job and some, illegal that's trying to come over drowns and
Correct.
you
You know
didn't
what?
jump.
What's
Then
the
it's
difference?
all over the news. You're big
What's the difference?
racist. You're awful.
The majority of the people that are vocal about that, they're not going to turn around and say, "Hey, what's your salary? We'll pay every single agent their own salary and everything else, that they have with it." And obviously, it's not just about the money, but it's about upholding the law. And the way I see it, the agents are out there. They're arresting people that are entering the country illegally. That's what they're doing. They're processing. They're going through the system. They're doing their job. That's part of their job. That always was part of their job. The problem is obviously the releasing of them, but that's not them doing it.
Now tell me what it would do, because they've been talking about this, and there's a big standoff between Texas and Biden. So the barbed wire was laid up. I know you're not in the Texas sector, but I know you know
No,
what's
but
going
I'm
on.
familiar with what's
Yeah,
going
you're
on.
familiar. So he put a bunch of fencing up. He took over this park, state land. He's is he not letting Border Patrol into that area, or he's letting them in, but not
So
illegals?
Governor Abbott, first, they wasn't Biden. So Governor Abbott said, "Hey, this is Texas land. We're gonna block it off and not allow the illegals to come in through that area," right? Which I believe. I don't work for the Supreme Court and I'm not a Supreme Court judge, but I believe that's
Yeah.
that's the right thing to do, right?
Mhm.
Because he's protecting. The funny part is he's not just protecting Texas. He's protecting the entire United States by not allowing it, because a lot of these groups, they're not staying in Texas. They're going throughout different areas of the United States. So he's doing a service to Texas, to his constituents, and he's doing a service to the United States. And he said, "Look, like, you're not going to cross through here, and we're not going to allow, just for you to turn yourself into Border Patrol." What's funny is they can go around there. They can just go around the park and turn themselves in on the around the other areas. But they continue to do it and go through there, because again, it's driven by the cartels, and they know that there's more media that's going to gravitate and see it. It's just shameful that it's coming down to this, because I don't see it as, going just defying Texas or getting angry. I see it as this administration is willing to defy law enforcement as a whole. This administration, because of their own agenda, whatever their agenda may be, is willing to prevent law enforcement and prevent individuals that are within the state of Texas from honestly protecting us from individuals that are trying to harm the country. And that's, I think, the big picture. And leadership within Border Patrol should even speak up and say, hey, that's okay. If they do that, that's fine, because that now relieves some of the agents that would have to be in that area themselves to patrol other areas around there.
Yeah. Now, if everybody stood up, I mean, I know what happens there, and it would be a mess.
Well,
But
it's not even stand up and
if
raise
those dudes
attack
above,
it.
if
It's
those
actually,
dudes
hey,
above
this
you,
is the issues and this is how you fix them.
yeah. No, I mean, and so you have these, you're caught in this political shitstorm. I mean, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. What's going on with the agents? Are they? I know they're frustrated, and we talked about that. But I mean, there's got to be some serious PTSD, some stress leave going on. I mean, with all those people coming in and they're telling you, you can't even really do your job. You could only do one section of your job, not your entire job. So you're going through that. What's happening to the agents? Are they
So it
burning
is.
out?
I'll tell you, it's very frustrating, and I'm going to tell you from my view, it's frustrating because you have leadership within the agency that could be explaining things to the agents a lot better at the same time. So a lot of times, you get that lack of communication when it goes all the way down to the ground troops, and some of the ground troops are sitting there going, "Well, are we doing this right, or are we not doing it? Why are we doing this?" And then, of course, you got the influencers and the politicians and everyone else that the ones that I call those individuals that memorize bumper stickers. It's the bumper sticker patrol. They'll memorize 2-3 lines on a bumper sticker, and then they'll continuously repeat that line over and over again. And if you hear it enough in an echo chamber, you think they're right. Or if you see them on social media that they have thousands upon thousands of followers and they say something, then people say, well, they must be right. They wouldn't have so many followers, right?
Right.
And I think that's where some of the frustration also comes around is the lack of knowledge by a lot of people to explain it, and even some of the frustration within the agents where they're forced to hear some things on social media, and our own agency doesn't correct it.
I asked Congressman Elsie and the candidates that are running for his office. I
Mm-hmm.
asked them all, do they think that this is intentional? So I'm going to ask you, do you think that this is intentional? What's happening?
By the administration.
Yes.
There's no other way to look at it anymore at this point. For the longest time, they denied that there was a problem. They said the border was secure. Now they've switched their story and admit that there's a problem. Obviously, it's an election year, right? The American public sees the problem. Politicians see the problem. The media has pointed out many issues of the problem. There's been a lot of outspoken individuals that have shown that there is a problem, and yet this administration, knowing what worked under the last administration, refused to do it. So I mean, there's no other way to look at it, or their hatred for the last administration is just so much greater than the love for our country.
Oh, and I think I heard you say that before, because that I see. That I see. I'm not going to do it because Trump did it, even though it worked, even though, it kept the numbers out and whatever. It doesn't matter. He did it. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
It is absolute stupidity. That's
And
not how you run the country.
I talk to individuals from both sides of the aisle. I especially like to talk to people that are anti-Trump. That's who I
Mhm.
really like to talk to, and I'll tell you why. Because if I'm talking to somebody that has the same views as me, I'm not really going to change anything. What are you doing? And
Mhm.
people love that. Unfortunately, people love that. You see it especially on social media. They love for everyone to love them. Everyone's got to love me. I have people that on my social media that contradict me or say stuff. I've never had an issue with that. I will tell you, I have an issue when people that don't know what they're talking about jump on my social media and they attack the agents. If you do that, that's an automatic ban on my eyes. You're going to attack the agents, you're gone. But if you think I'm wrong on something, I get it, and we can discuss it. And I've done that. But I like to talk to the people on the other side of the aisle that don't have the same agreements, because this is what I always ask them. I say, what affects you more, gas prices or what gets posted on Twitter? What affects you more, taxes or Twitter? Food on your table or Twitter? Your job or Twitter? Feeling safe at home or Twitter? Everyone's going to answer. No one's going to answer Twitter, because that's not what affects them on a day. You put gas on your vehicle more than you check Twitter. You know what I mean? So that's all I tell them. I said, look at those things, and then you decide who you think you should vote for.
Yeah, and you know what? It's kind of like, because we come from the same community, and we grew up a certain way, and you get to see things, and you go on with life, and you see things a little bit differently. At least that's how it went for me.
Yes.
Every Puerto Rican is they, when they're born, they get a Puerto Rican flag and a Democrat card. Those things kind of,
Right.
and with time and going around the world and seeing things, I changed up. But that said, it there's always a conversation in that, going into their mindset. There's a conversation about they always talking about that, the Border Patrol is a bunch of racists, bunch of this. They don't know that the Border Patrol is mostly manned by Latinos, right? Can you tell
Right.
me about that?
Yeah, no, that's definitely it. The majority are Latinos. Look, I'm Hispanic. There's no denying it, obviously.
Mhm.
And I've never faced that racism, to be honest. And like I said, I've worked in law enforcement for over 27 years. And I worked for the firefighting before that. Um, it's really frustrating when you hear that, when you hear the term "vendido." I've spoken a lot of
Oh, oh,
out here in Arizona. I've spoken in California, areas of Texas and Nevada. So I'll speak in different events, that they'll have me. And I've spoken in the South. I've spoken in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. I've spoken to those events. And it's not even a racial thing to me. I explain it to people. Look, illegal is not a race. I've said that so many times. And people just need to realize that. And sometimes this is funny. I'll have people that I've come across, and they'll argue with me, and they'll tell me, like, oh, how do you feel doing this to your people? And the first thing I ask them is, when you get pulled over by a Mexican federale and they ask you for mordida, or a bribe, do you tell them how do you feel about doing that to your people? So
yeah.
that's what it comes down to. It's just misinformation. People are misinformed. The media does a fantastic job, I'll be honest, of attacking people and attacking, certain law enforcement. We're forced, as Hispanics, a lot of us will gravitate towards some of the Latin American, or the Latin
Yeah,
television, the Latin media, and
Telemundo.
have enough people on Univision or Telemundo that are telling a certain story. I've been on their channel a couple of times. I've done some of their reports. Sometimes they don't even get broadcast, and I call them later and I said, "What happened? Was it not good enough?" And I know I got a couple of friends over there that have been really honest, and they'll tell me, "Look, the producer just said what you were saying isn't within our agenda," and their agenda, they don't like the way I say it, because I break it down and I explain it. One of the big issues that I talked about that they never aired. Remember during the pandemic, where the borders were closed?
Mhm.
Well, the borders were closed for legal crossers. That's who the pandemic was closed for. So individuals that live in border towns, right? The majority of them are Mexican people that live in border towns, that had the proper documents. They went through the proper, laws to get these border crossing cards. They were not allowed to cross the border because of that pandemic. However, that entire time when this was going on, if you were an illegal from anywhere else in the world and you crossed in between the port of entries illegally and you claimed asylum, you were released in the United States. And that's another thing that I want to point out, that this administration, they continue and they reward, and they've done it from day one. They reward lawlessness and the criminal element, and at the end, the people that are following the law are the ones that are suffering. And it doesn't matter whether you're white, Hispanic, or whatever other color you want. Pick any color of the rainbow. At the end of the day, this administration has defended criminal behavior and lawlessness, and has prohibited lawful individuals from gaining anything.
And I could attest that when we were talking about earlier about their thoughts on law enforcement, I mean, it's affecting my agency as well. And I mean, it is real. It is real. Like, mission changes completely to we're going to do what we want. I know the law is this, but we're going to do this. And I mean, it's happening in every level of law enforcement, on the federal level. It really is. And it's kind of disgusting because, you know, I'm not a rookie. I've been doing this a while, and
Right.
these, you know, I've done my job to the best of my ability, and to see these people just kind of just trash it all, and just, I mean, it's just bad. And I know you guys get that every day, so I'm sorry for even complaining about that.
No, I get no. You should complain because you're right. And look at who gets the brunt of it. The brunt of it is individuals like you know, that are the boots on the ground. Because the upper management, a lot of them, they're plain clothes even. So you know, no one even knows what they do when they don't attack them. You see it on the media. When they were attacking the FBI, though, people were attacking the leadership of the FBI. They weren't attacking the boots on the ground at the agents. But then all of a sudden now you see it, and you know, when it comes to border patrol, they're quick to attack the agents instead of the leadership, and that's what's frustrating.
Art, I want, before I get you out, because I promised you it'd be half hour, but I could talk to you forever. The what, when it comes to sex trafficking and these children getting hurt, I want the people of Ellis County to understand what's going on down there when it comes to that, because there's a bunch of children supposedly missing that
Right.
the government has no accountability for. And one of my sister in arms that's working for another agency, you know, caught some 12-year-old working in Taco Bell that was one of those kids that are missing. Nobody knows where they're at. What is going on down there with sex trafficking, and what are you seeing being done to these kids and women?
So that's a very frustrating thing to talk about, obviously, because you know, I'm a parent. But I'll tell you where there's so many different angles that we can go with this. And the problem is there's different factions. So there's the agents that are arresting, you know, individuals coming across, and a lot of times you see children. So there's two laws. There's a law called the Flores ruling that says you cannot detain a minor longer than 21 days. So the cartels, or the people, human smugglers, they've used that to their benefit. So what they would do is, if you're just, you know, just say from any country, and you're coming into the United States, and you realize when you get detained, you're going to probably get detained longer. So what happens is they turn around and they say, look, if you have a child with you, that child needs to be released after 21 days. Since you're the legal guardian of this child that's crossing, you're going to get released with him. So what you would see a lot is individuals that would cross and they would rent kids. They would use these kids that they rented so they can come across knowing they're going to get released. Then once they get released, they send that child back to Mexico, and it just gets recycled in somebody else.
So the kids go back and forth, and you see this kid several
Yeah, you
times.
have fingerprint child after until they're a certain age. So that's what people need to understand. Uh, so the cartels know, hey, if it's a minor, they're not going to get fingerprint anyway, so you're not going to make them out. So that's one of the problems. Another one is a lot of these kids already have family in the United States that they left a long time ago, and they're utilizing, you know, these gaps now to be able to come across, and they themselves are come across unaccompanied. But the big misconception is thinking that the U.S. government or that Border Patrol agents in particular are the ones that are separating families and losing those kids. No, a lot of it is these kids that have come across as rentals, or kids that have gone through and gotten away, or kids that have come and they're minors and they get turned over to other entities, NGOs, non-government organizations that, I will add, are getting money from the government to run their agencies, right?
It's a big
And
racket.
they're care of, you know, connecting them with family members. A lot of it is, remember during the Obama administration when you had all those unaccompanied juveniles that were coming across. That was during the Obama. That's when the kids in cages. That later on they waited for Trump to go into office to start showing kids in cages and say, "Oh, look, Trump's putting them in cages." Well, I'm not going to defend the Obama administration, but I will tell you those were not kids in cages. There were kids in detention in holding cells until they were sent to a detention facility. That's how it was. It was a minimum amount of time, and there was thousands of them coming across. A lot of them, uh, and you know this. What is a juvenile? What is the legal age to be a juvenile? 17.
17, yeah.
So a lot of these that were being called juveniles were 16 and 17-year-olds. Now, I've been attacked for saying this, but I'll still say it. Your 16 and 17-year old juvenile that were coming across by themselves from a lot of these countries like El Salvador, Guatemala, Ecuador, Brazil, they're not your regular U.S. 16 and 17-year olds. Okay, they've lived a different lifestyle. A lot of them are already connected with gangs, with criminal elements. That's what you were seeing at that time come across. Now, that was before the Trump administration. Trump was in office for 4 years. Biden's been in office for 3 years. So you add 7 years to that 17.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How old are they now? They're full-grown adults.
Full grown.
And if you ask anyone in the agency, within ICE or the administration, the current administration, where are all those thousands that came across? They don't know. And that's where all these numbers that they play with the numbers and they say they lost the kids. Well, they're full grown adults. That's the problem. Is a lot of these individuals are not full grown adults, and obviously there's the loopholes of the Flores ruling that people utilize, knowing that they won't get detained longer than 21 days. Then you got another the Ninth Circuit Court ruling in the state of Arizona where you cannot detain people in the facilities that are out here longer than 10 days. So now that's another loophole. So that's why you see people come through the Tucson sector because they know they're not going to be detained longer than 10 days. And the cartels, they know all that. They know every single step. They know where to cross, what to do it. And again, this administration just continues to keep their eyes closed and not do anything about it.
I always wonder, and all that stuff, it gets big. Like you start talking World Economic Forum. I mean, you could get lost in that whole thing. But
Yes.
I mean, it's a deep, deep issue. And you have all these people coming. A lot of them, we have no idea what they're doing. These kids that are coming that apparently they're like, oh, yeah, that's my Theo. And
Yeah.
probably not their Theo and probably not their, relative at all.
Yeah,
And
and when you catch a group of 300, say you catch a group of 300, people say, well, they should vet each one and make sure. Man, you catch a group of 300 and they're just saying that's my uncle. Yes, that's my uncle. It's not so easy when you don't have enough manpower to do it. But I'm careful the way I say that because then people will say, okay, you guys just if you get more manpower, you can fix it. No, it's policies. You need the right policies. And right now, there's so much frustration amongst the agents. I remember when I years ago, you would see agents that would join this agency and they'd get to the age of where they were eligible for retirement and they would stay, or they would get to the age of where they were mandatory retirement and they would ask for extension. So Border
yeah,
Patrol, you hit 57 years old, you got to go. You have
yep.
to ask for extension, and you'd see that. Now, what you see is the minute agents are eligible, they leave. And if you're one of those agents that's been eligible but you're still here, they ask you all the time, "What the hell is wrong with you? Why are you still here? I'm questioning your sanity."
One bad day, one bad day, Yeah.
What was that?
They're like one bad day or two bad days in a row and I'm
Yeah,
gone.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. 2 bad days and a wake up.
Yeah, two bad days and a wake up. Yeah, no, I've heard those lines before. So in kind of closing, I want to give you the mic to talk to the people about what you think or what that your brothers in arms need to do this mission right. What is the thing that you guys see because you guys know that people don't know, and I want you to kind of grab the mic and talk to them.
Look, what we need is policies. That it's really simple. People talk about more agents, hire this, hire more. You need the right policies. That's what you need at the end of the day. You're not asking for more money if to get more taxpayer money. Nothing like that. You need the right policies. You need to ask the agents exactly what works. And the reality is, during elections, you get a lot of politicians that ask agents, that ask the council. They want endorsements and they ask what's going on. But unfortunately, sometimes once they're in there, they gravitate towards leadership. They gravitate towards what some people's color, and I think that's the biggest frustration. And realistically, you see all the attacks. You see all the attacks on law enforcement. You see it, against border patrol agents, against regular local PD. You see it against corrections officers. And just so everyone knows, because that's a big pet peeve of mine, do not call them prison guards for Pete's sake. They're corrections officers, okay? And the way I see corrections officers is they're working in the toughest cities in America, because everyone that is their customers, they're all criminals, and
Mhm.
respect them as such. So that's part of the difficult
Thank you.
positions, is people need to realize that each and every day, it is a thankless job, but we still do it because we believe in something, and we believe we have that small shred of hope. And all I want is for the people of America, whether you're on the right side or the left side of the aisle, to care about this country as much as we care about each other.
Yeah, yeah. And man, thank you so much for doing this job, brother. You're standing to watch, you're on the line, you're doing it, man. It's you and your brothers doing it every day. And the worst part about it is that you're in the biggest political shitstorm ever in the history of the United States, and you're right in the middle of it, trying to do your job, the job that you swore to do, and you're trying to do it, and you're caught in between a big thing, and until policy changes, administration changes, whatever, something's got to change, or we're going to end up getting another 9/11 or worse.
Unfortunately, you're right, and I think those that are wanting to harm our country, we already have a good amount of them inside the country, because of gotaways and the failed policies of this administration. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, honestly, and I hope you get 1 billion views, because
Thank
everyone needs to see what's going on, and know the truth. And that's another thing. People, careful who you follow at times. Sometimes you'll follow those individuals because, like I said, they memorize the right bumper stickers, and you think they're the cool kids, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have all the facts. And do me a favor, if you guys can follow me, I'm on Instagram as the official Art del Cueto page. Follow me there. At the same time, find the Green Line. That's one word, the Green Line,
right.
on Spotify or iHeartRadio, and listen to my show. And at the same time, give support where support needs to be given, because at the end of the day, the people that are out there, boots on the ground, that have taken the time, that have gone to the academies, that have actually sweat in Glencoe, I might add.
Thank you.
Those are the individuals that actually know. And I say Glencoe because I know where some of you all went to and everything. But honestly, every law enforcement officer, regardless of where they went, they know, and especially those that have been in there, over 15 years.
Yep. Well, can you stick around real quick?
Yeah, for sure.